Ever bought a game only to find out it's riddled with bugs, missing features, or feels half-baked? You're not alone. Welcome to the world of unfinished games. The gaming industry has found a way to make millions by releasing products that are nowhere near finished, and somehow we keep buying them. Today, we're diving into the truth behind these unfinished masterpieces and why they still make a killing. Let's start with one of the most controversial models of all, early access. On paper, early access sounds like a great deal. You pay to support a game while it's still in development, and in return, you get to shape the game's future. But the reality is far different. More often than not, early access means you're paying to beta test a game for the developers while they rake in the profits. Games like No Man's Sky, Rust, and Ark, Survival Evolved have all used this model to make millions. At launch, these games were incomplete, broken, or offered bare-bones content. But here's the kicker. They made millions even before they were anywhere near finished. No Man's Sky launched in 2016 with massive promises. Procedurally generated planets, infinite exploration, multiplayer capabilities, all grand concepts. But the reality, a shallow, barren world with tons of missing features and unfinished mechanics. Yet, the game made millions before it even remotely lived up to its promises. Why? Because it was marketed as a revolutionary experience, and people bought into the hype before they even realized they were paying for an unfinished product. Then, there's the infamous Day 1 patch. You've probably experienced this yourself. Buying a brand new game, only to find out that it's essentially unplayable until you download a massive update on launch day. Battlefield 2042, a game that made headlines for its lack of features and technical issues, is a perfect example of this trend. The game was released with game-breaking bugs, missing content, and a multitude of crashes, but the developers had a Day 1 patch ready to fix things. The problem? These patches were just band-aids for bigger issues that should have been addressed before the game was released. But here's the twist. Despite all of these issues, Battlefield 2042 made millions in the first few weeks, thanks to pre-orders and the hype around its launch. It's simple. The companies know that gamers will still buy the game, pre-order it, and hope for the best. The promise of fixing it later keeps people locked in, and the developers profit massively while their players foot the bill for a game that isn't even close to finished. And then, we have the power of hype. It's the strategy of creating a mountain of anticipation before the game even launches, promising everything and delivering barely anything. Cyberpunk 2077 is the perfect example. Despite being one of the most hyped games of the decade, Cyberpunk 2077 launched in a disastrous state. Players were faced with a glitch-filled, crash-heavy experience that wasn't anywhere near what was promised. Yet, despite this mess, Cyberpunk 2077 made over $600 million in its first month. How? Well, the sheer hype around the game, fueled by years of marketing and teaser trailers, led millions of people to buy it, sight unseen, believing it was going to be the next great thing. Even after all the bugs, crashes, and refunds, Cyberpunk 2077 still made a huge profit. And why? Because the game was sold on potential, not substance. People bought into the hype, and the developers got paid before they even had to deliver on their promises. Now, let's talk about one of the most profitable and controversial trends in gaming: live service games. This is a model where the game is constantly being updated, patched, and expanded upon over time. The idea is to keep players engaged forever, so they can keep buying new content like battle passes, skins, and expansions. Games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Destiny 2 follow this model. While these games have evolved over time and have a dedicated fanbase, let's not forget, these games were released unfinished, and they're still not finished. Fortnite launched with a bare-bones battle royale mode and continued to evolve over time, adding content and fixing bugs as they went along. And here's the thing. These games make millions not because they're finished, but because they've created an ongoing cycle of content that keeps you hooked. The game is constantly in development, which means players are constantly waiting for updates, while paying for the promise of new content. It's a business model that prioritizes profit over quality, yet somehow it works. So, why does this work? Why do unfinished games still make millions? It's all about trust and hype. Developers know that as long as they market their game well, people will buy it, no matter the state of the product. Hype builds anticipation, and anticipation leads to sales. Even if the game is broken at launch, as long as it promises future fixes or features, players are willing to invest in the hope that the game will improve over time. The reality is simple. The gaming industry has figured out how to turn unfinished games into ongoing profit streams. Even if the product isn't perfect, players are willing to fork out cash for the chance to experience something new. And maybe, just maybe, get that perfect game down the road. So, what does all of this mean for us as gamers? Well, it means that we're being sold on potential, not quality. We're paying for games that might improve, but often don't meet the standards they promise. And the worst part, developers know we'll keep buying in, even if the game is far from finished. What do you think? Have you ever bought a game that was clearly unfinished, only to find yourself hoping it would improve? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow gamers. We need to start holding the industry accountable for its unfinished promises.